All right, so recently, many of you have been sending me or posting questions in the comments, in my email, by carrier pigeon, any way that you can basically send me a question. You guys have managed to do it. So I thought I would take the time to answer some of these questions. Not the best ones, not the most important ones. In fact, I'm seeing many of these questions for the first time. So these answers are going to be authentic, genuine, off the cuff. Let's get into it. All right, so first question is from Lance Goodthrust. I don't think that's his real name. All right, so the question is, who are you exactly? Okay, it's a fair question. It is. So I'm Andre. I'm from Canada, but I live all over the place. And basically I am on here to try to recapture my creativity. I used to be super, hyper, ultra creative way back when I was young and pretty. But now I'm old and pretty and I'm not so creative anymore. And so I'm just trying to get back into that, get back into drawing, writing, and making videos. And so this is kind of where I'm starting. Okay, next question. And well, hang on. So the next question comes from Guy Buttersnaps. And he says, why should we care what you do on here? Okay, a little hurtful, I'll be honest, but also fair. Well, Mr. Buttersnaps, like I said, I'm trying to get creative again, and I think that's something that a lot of people are struggling with, especially people over 40, like myself. We used to be creative, maybe in, primary school, high school, even in our 20s or 30s, but things get in the way, things fade away, and then we try to sort of get that back, and that's what I'm doing. So you can follow my journey, maybe learn from it, maybe learn what not to do. I mean, I plan to share my successes, but also my failures, things that don't go right, that don't go well. And I also plan to share what I've learned. So hopefully that will resonate with some people. If it doesn't resonate with you, Guy, I mean, just, don't watch. I've included a few links below to other channels that you may find more interesting and that will take you far away from here. All right, so next question is from Cherlindria, and she asks, what are the monkeys like in your hometown? Well, I'm from Ottawa in Canada. That would be my hometown, and we don't really have any monkeys. We have raccoons. That would be the closest thing I can think of. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah. All right, so next up we've got...
You've got mail.
Ooh, exciting. Right, so the next one is from Lacey Underall, and she asks, you say that you want to get back into being creative, so in what? Good question, Lacey. So basically, as I said before, I used to draw when I was like, 10 and all the way into high school. I'm pretty sure in high school there were actually some students who had no idea who I was unless you described me as like the guy who draws, and then they're like, oh yeah, okay, that guy. So yeah, I was honestly known for it. Then later on in my 20s and 30s, I got more into writing, and the drawing kind of fell away. Looking back, it almost feels like I always had like just enough bandwidth for one sort of creative endeavor. And so earlier on it was drawing and then writing. In my 20s though, I also did some video, like short films basically with friends, just for the fun of it. We had no goals. YouTube was not really a thing yet. It kind of was. We kind of knew it existed, but the idea of putting our short films on there never really crossed our minds. It was just something we really did because we enjoyed movies and we wanted to make our own. And now I kind of feel like all of these different things that I wish we had back then, like a free version of DaVinci Resolve at all, cameras that can shoot 4K, phones that can shoot 4K. Like, we had none of that. I didn't even have a cell phone, I think. And if I did, it probably took like, 8 megabyte photos or whatever, right? So 8 megapixel photos, sorry. So, now it's like, well, I've got access to all those things. So why not take advantage? So the short answer is I want to get back to drawing. I want to get back to writing. But at the moment, just because YouTube is a thing, I'm starting with getting back into video and, short films. And I'm trying to integrate more filmic aspects into these videos, almost making them into short films. So yeah, that's both the short answer and the long answer all rolled into one. All right, so this next question is from my mom. Okay, well, Mom, it wasn't really a question, but I appreciate the support, really, I do. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, moving on. And the next one is, it's on my phone. Let's see here. Actually, let me just take that, and there we go. And it's from your mom. Okay. And your mom says, "Why are you so handsome all the time?" Aw, your mom. That's so nice. Oh, jeez. Well, honestly, I just don't know how to stop.
Ooh.
All right, that was a great one. So what do we got next? Okay. Okay, I know what that means. All right. Here we go. Okay, so we've got over here. All right. Does this mean anything? Okay, yes. There we go. Put that. And then here. Okay. Now, what is P? No, that's nothing. Here, though. Yeah. How is this one? All right. So this one is from Zed Goldthwait, and Zed says, "What do you struggle most with this whole recapturing your creativity thing?" Yeah, the list is long, Zed. It's long, but I think there are two things in particular. One is that what Ira Glass called the taste gap. So basically, if you're someone who's into art of any sort, you likely create art, sure, but you also consume art. And after a while, after consuming enough art, your taste starts to develop. You start to actually be able to tell what is good and what is not so good, especially when it comes to you, your own taste. And then you try to create stuff knowing what is good according to you, but whatever you create doesn't match up. It's normal. It's almost, it's to be expected, really. You're not Steven Spielberg, right? You're not David Lynch. You're not Weird Al Yankovic. But, you know how good they are. In some cases, you even know why they are good, and you still can't replicate. That is very difficult for me, especially because I haven't been creating for quite a long time, at least not regularly, but I've still been consuming. So I'm consuming more and more and more, developing my taste more and more and more. But my actual creative ability in drawing, in writing, in making videos has either, if I'm lucky, it's stagnated, and if I'm unlucky, it's atrophied. It's actually gotten worse. And so it's that much more frustrating. And that actually brings me to the second thing. And the second thing is that I can look back at what I have done. I've written entire novels just for fun. And I read them and I think to myself, this guy's pretty good. So my taste is such that I can recognize good work. My current ability is such that I can't match it. But then on top of that, I can look at stuff that I did back in my 20s or early 30s, and it's actually better than what I can do now. So on the bright side, it's like, well, if I was able to do it back then, I should still be able to do it now, right? It's not like going to the gym. It's not one of those things where it's like, well, if I could lift this much when I was 25, I should be able to do it now when I'm 40 something. No. But with creativity, it really is just a lack of practice. So yeah, those are the two things I struggle with the most. And it's difficult to stay motivated because you do something and you know for a fact, I was able to do better than this. 15, 20 years ago, I could do better than this. So yeah, that's what I struggle with the most. The two things I struggle with the most, by far. But I'm working on it. And if you struggle with that too, I feel your pain. Okay, so next question is... Got it. Okay, so the next question is from Twink Tucker. And he says, or he asks, who is your favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? Donatello. Yeah, it's Donatello. But I do believe that every person should have elements of every Ninja Turtle in themselves as part of their being. And that includes Splinter. That is the key. Nobody ever talks about Splinter in that way. I always talk about the others, but that is the key. It is. Okay, next question. Thanks, Terrence. Terrence is a good guy. A good bird. All right, so next question is from Marion Cobretti. And Marion asks, what does oleander flimmus mean? That is a super good question, Marion. So, oleander flimmus, honestly, when it first came to me as a term, I was pretty young, probably, maybe, 11 or 12. Raised in French. English was good, but still second language. And I'm quite certain that at the time, I thought that both oleander and flimmus were words that I had come up with. I don't think I was actually aware that oleander was a word. And I don't mean that I accidentally created it. I'm sure I heard it somewhere, but I had forgotten that this was not a word. So it was a word that was in my head, in the back of my mind, but I mistook it for something that I just came up with. And I certainly did not at that time know that it was a beautiful but poisonous flower. Flimmus, however, that is definitely a word I came up with. And it confounds spell checkers all the time. But what does it mean? It started off as its first incarnation, official incarnation, I guess, was as the title for a zine that I drew when I was in high school, around 15, 16, something like that. And it was basically just a space for me to have some fun. I admired certain comic book artists at the time, so sometimes I'd think, okay, I want to try drawing something in the style of, I liked Stephen Platt, for example, at that time. And so I might just think, okay, I just want a big battle scene with these big guys with a lot of vascularity and weird science fiction tech. So I would create, for example, just a 3-page battle between two futuristic gladiators. And that's all it was. And it was really just the purpose was to try out that style of drawing. And when I got bored of it, I just wrote "to be continued" and I moved on to something else. And something else was usually some kind of dark, weird humor. There was a cat with 999 lives, like a cartoon cat. And it was these 1-page strips. And in each strip, he would die in a creative sort of way. And then, the next strip, it would be down to 998, and then he would die again in 997. And the idea is, I was going to do 1,000. I think I did 3 or 4. There was also a character with a navel so deep that it had its own gravity. And he realized that if he sucked air into it, it being his navel, he could then push the air back out and achieve a sort of hovering flight. And he, of course, used that newfound ability to fight crime. So that's the kind of thing that was in there. But I really just did it for myself and then for a few of my weirder friends, right? Like I would show that to them. They would think it's hilarious. And that was it. I had some stories about like freak show serial killers or something like that. I mean, just anything I really wanted to kind of play around with, that's where I could do it. So Oleander Flimus was kind of chaotic creativity. It was not just a sandbox, but because it wasn't a box, right? It was just like a world that I could just try whatever and with no real consequences. So in a sense, now what I'm trying to do is apply that kind of weirdness, that kind of unchecked imagination to what I'm doing here. Now, of course, there are some like technical aspects, and there was with Oleander Flimus as well. I mean, I still would try to draw fairly well. The idea is that I would improve. So it wasn't just random in that sense, but it was also with no sense of, I didn't care what other people thought. I showed it to some friends. They thought it was funny and entertaining. That was good enough. That was the bar I had set. That's it. So anything beyond that, it was just kind of a bonus, but oftentimes it was like, really? Like if someone else saw it and thought it was good, it was, well, okay. That says more about you than about this. So basically what I've been trying to do is apply that kind of chaos, creative chaos, to what I do here. So Oleander Flimus has really, in a way, become a sort of, I guess you could say, a sort of philosophy, a sort of guiding light that I try to keep in sight. So whenever I do create something for this or for anything in the future, I always try to think, okay, how do I apply that sort of Oleander Flimus, ethos to it? And whenever I start to care too much about likes and views and anything like that, followers, whatever, all those things I don't have, I kind of try my best to revert to that sort of Oleander Flimus mentality, which necessarily does not give a shit about those things. Really, it's like, okay, but would my 16-year-old self and my friends find this fun or entertaining? And if the answer is yes, then I'm going in the right direction, or I did things right. And that has to be good enough, at least for now. That's the long answer. Okay, the last question is, where are my keys? How am I supposed to know where your keys are? I have no idea where. There they are. You'll get them soon.